So, hello and welcome back to the official selection. My name is Neve Brooke and I'm here today with Lynsey Cullen from Biology, which is nominated for Best East Anglian Film here at the Norwich Film Festival. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. How are you finding Norwich? I know you're not a Norwich local, so how have you found it? How are you finding the festival?
Well, this is the beginning of my festival, so it's really exciting coming here and meeting you. And otherwise, myself and my sister's here with me, and we've done a little bit of sightseeing and seen the cathedral, and it's gorgeous. Really
Fabulous.
A fan already, yeah.
We have noticed that you haven't seen Paddington yet, so that is your homework. You do need to go find Paddington Bear tomorrow.
That will be tomorrow, yeah. After the festival, that's our first job.
So to start, could you tell us a little bit more about Biology and how the idea came to be?
Yeah, so Biology is a film about a queer female couple who have an argument about how to start a family. So one of them has asked her brother to be their sperm donor. The other really doesn't like this brother, and they're on a little holiday with family, and it's all kind of like the hilarity ensues as such about what happens after they've asked this brother. It came to me actually because some of my partner's friends were thinking about doing this, asking they're a queer female couple, and they were thinking about asking one of their brothers to donate sperm. And we have two lovely brothers. I don't want their sperm. And I think it was one of those things that I thought is so subjective. It's such an interesting premise. It's something that some people will really connect with and other people will immediately think, oh, God, that's not for me. And so we wanted to set something. I then got in touch with the director, Oz Arshad, who's brilliant. And we wanted to do something that was quite contained and quite intimate and just make it about that conversation.
And it's so interesting as well because it is an inherently silly film, but there is a tension, and it's that sort of, the ball starts rolling and more things start coming out and more things start coming out, and it's written so naturalistically that it does feel like you're part of the row, and like you feel sort of like, oh no, it keeps on getting bigger, and at least they do make up at the end. Spoilers, they make up at the end.
They do make up at the end, yes.
But yeah, it's such an interesting premise. And when you were working on the film with Oz and your producer Guy, what was the goal? Was it, to share the point of view? Was it to bring it to festivals and sort of win some awards? Or was it just to sort of learn more about, the filmmaking process as a whole?
I mean, a little bit of everything for me, personally. I mean, the script came out of, so I'd written a long play that was a long form that had, we'd workshop with Arts Council funding and things, and there were just some of those conversations in there that I realised we spent so much of our time in the theatre setting talking about, and this was one of them. So for me, I wanted to bring that kind of conversation, and especially at a time where there's so many issues, of course, with LGBTQ rights and everything, I wanted to have a conversation about queer families, and, I find that we get so many stories about kind of, which I'm there for and I love, but there's so many coming out stories. But what about the kind of next steps and the next plans for these couples? But then I also this is my first short film, so I wanted to work with a great team, and Guy and Oz are seasoned and incredible, and they're so much fun, and they were so welcoming and so generous. And we kept, to get the experience of working on a short film script as well, cutting something that was, I say, longer form and written for stage, which I'm really glad, I think, I wanted that kind of naturalistic, just that conversational type, and so when Oz was really not scared about setting something in one room, having a set that was, he makes it, I think, doesn't feel like in a way you feel like you're contained because you're with the conversation, but it's not, a still camera on two people. He's set it, I think, he's done such a good job of making it a really interesting short, and we follow the story around even though we're in this one tiny room. And I think the music and things like that as well, I've got to give a shout out to, because that brings that tension. It makes it almost kind of a horror thriller type vibe.
We all know
really
that
funny
feeling when you're having a mild row with your partner and it suddenly keeps on getting worse and worse. You're like, I did not want this to happen.
So I just, for me, it was about learning all of those things, loved being on set, and just loved working in the kind of short film. And again, just appreciating what was achievable, because it's short, there's a small budget, one location, and a brilliant, like, quite small team. So it was just a lovely experience for me personally, to tell the kind of story I wanted to do, but in a way that was very achievable and very friendly and very encouraging.
It's a real snapshot into that couple's life. You know, you don't get to learn everything, but you get to know exactly how they're feeling in that moment. And, you know, learning that it's come from a play into that, it feels like it was always meant to be that, you know, it's perfect. And with this being your first short film, how did you find the festival process? You know, how did you and the team go about, you know, researching festivals, choosing them, and then, you know, ultimately submitting? Did you have sort of a strategy, or was it just sort of see that one and, you know, that looks good, let's apply to that?
Well, again, I mean, you know, we haven't got a huge budget, so we had to be quite selective. But I think that, I say, Oz and Guy, their season, that they've been to so many of these things, and they knew the ones that they really wanted to apply for, this being one of them. I mean, Guy's local, and it's a fantastic festival, so we knew that there were some that were top of the list. But then equally, this is, I think I'm right in saying, the first LGBTQ film either of them have been involved in. So there was then other festivals that neither of them had been to or didn't know about. So it was my job to go away and look at some other films as kind of test subjects and see where they were going on, where ours might fit. Some, I mean, things like Brighton Rocks, for example, are a classic LGBTQ, like as a city, but they, I'm sure, have been before with other films. But we then applied for some that were specifically, I mean, the film's been in, it's been shown at Miami and in other places in America, Connecticut, and they're LGBTQ festivals. And so there's some that I particularly wanted to go for as well and get our perspective out amongst other LGBTQ films. Whereas a lot of them here, I mean, Manchester, I forget, Women X as well was fantastic. You know, they were kind of, because it's a women's story, but it's, you know, I didn't want it just to be in LGBTQ categories and LGBTQ competitions. I wanted it to be out there. So it was really nice, I think, sitting down and just going through some of the kind of more big established ones, but also between us finding out some of these other festivals that none of us had been involved in before.
And going to such a wide range of festivals, have you learned how best to sort of maximise a festival? Because probably a lot of people watching this, I've never submitted to a festival before. I'm probably a bit nervous. Do you network? Do you go to panels? You know, you obviously do podcasts, but like, how do you make the most of attending a festival once you get in?
I think, a lot of, it depends what you want to get out of it, I suppose. You know, if you do want to go and network and meet other filmmakers, I like to look at the programme beforehand, see what other films are on. A large part of coming for me is seeing the other films, seeing what kind of styles I like, and then afterwards I'll reach out to those directors or those producers if I've got other ideas for films, which I always do. So it's nice to be able to see other films, think I would love to work with that person on that kind of thing, and then reach out to them. Because sometimes, as much as you can, you know, stalk people online and see what they look like and things, trying to find people at a festival and approach them can be quite daunting, I think, for a lot of people. And I feel like I'm quite a confident person. I'd happily do that if I but I equally, I don't want to make it my whole festival experience to go around hunting people down. You know, I think it's a much nicer, natural thing to come and just enjoy yourself. There's always the networking things that happen afterwards. The industry panels are always really interesting as well, if there's things that actually, you know, you're particularly interested in an area. And then that can be a really nice way to meet people as well, because you get to sit down and chat to the people around you, and you get to then have a conversation starter with the people that have been on stage. So I think there's all those kind of little tactics if you're there to particularly network. But otherwise, I think they're just great things to come along. Seeing my films on the big screen is lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and getting to bring friends and family and people along to see that as well it feels really special. So I think for me, it's just about coming along and enjoying myself.
And do you have any top tips, you know, for either submitting or while you're there, for anyone that is submitting for the first time? Do you have any top tips on how best to go about that?
I think, you know, look at the kind of things that they screened in the past, see if they, you know, it might be that some obviously festivals have just best short, you know, and that's what you're putting in with against other people. But others, you know, they're more categorised, like here, for example, and some others. And it can be that you think you might have a better chance in one category than another, for example. But also reach out. I found so far that everybody at all these festivals are just lovely. And actually, if you're not sure and you think, is this the kind of thing that they might screen? Then reach out to them and just ask, you know, we've done this festival, I've done this film, you know, I'd love to have it on at your festival. And I think that, you know, if you're kind of confident enough to do that, then you're in quite a good position, and perhaps then they might remember you and remember the film and make sure they give it an extra look. Yeah, exactly.
It's so interesting, you know, because it probably is very daunting, because it's your baby. That's your baby and you're sharing it with the world. So I think for anyone who is learning, having a few top tips is really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. Is there anything about your festival journey that you would change? Is there anything that you would do different, having now, applied and done a lot or been to lots of festivals? Is there anything that you think, I wish I hadn't done that? Or are you quite happy with how biology's been handled in the world?
I think, if anything, I'd probably try and... I mean, I've tried to go to all of the festivals, but that is, there are so many barriers. It's so expensive, obviously, to travel around everywhere and to go to all these things. But I think if you're in the position that you can, I think that's the thing. If anything, I would make sure... You never know which festival might be your last one in these things.
Yeah.
And although you can obviously keep... I've got other short films now in post-production, and I'm planning on doing a lot more of these for a long time. I kind of think that you never know if you're going to get to go to one of these things or not. So I think my top tip would probably be to try your best to go to as many of these things as you can, because it's lovely, A, to see your film on screen, and B, to get to meet loads of lovely people.
Yeah. And always apply to Norwich Film Festival.
Yes,
always come and visit us. Well, it's nice to hear that you're working on some more. Hopefully we'll see you again. We'll have to have you come back with another film.
We've shot another one with Oz that's in post-production at the moment, and another in LA, actually, which is...
Oh, wow.
So, and that one, again, is very almost... And that's another LGBTQ one that's almost ready. So hopefully, it would be quite fun to go to some out there if I can afford it, but it'd be really fun to bring it over here, because it's very different vibe to biology. It's very... Biology being set, in the kind of... I don't know, I want it to be a very working-class British film.
Yeah.
And then, and this is very kind of a bit more glossy LA, so it'd be quite a nice contrast.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing that one. What are you looking forward to most about your time here at Norwich, quickly, before we say goodbye? Have you got a screening that you're looking most forward to, or a panel?
No, I mean, well, I just want to get to as many things as possibly can, and now see Paddington, obviously, is now on top of the list as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the official selection today, Lynsey. It's been so amazing picking your brain, and I hope you really enjoy... I mean, this is the first thing you've done here at Norwich, but I hope you enjoy your screening tonight, and I hope you enjoy visiting Paddington later.
Lovely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.